Good morning, Titans fans. Welcome back to the Morning Glory Show. I am your host, Jake Robertson. Thanks for tuning in today. I already see people tuning into the chat. Make sure, if you're checking us out on Twitter, head over to YouTube. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Make sure you drop some comments down in the chat so we can cover those at the end of the show. But today we got a jam-packed show. We're going to be doing a first-round mock draft. We're going to cover a trade-back opportunity with the Tennessee Titans. We've kind of had these big four from 11, pick 11, pick 14 that have all need that quarterback and could be potentially moving up. Today, we're going to be trading with the Raiders. So we'll be trading back there. We'll be talking about these and discussing them individually and moving through. We'll make a collective pick for that Titans pick, and we'll move through there. And at the end of the show, we're going to cover our favorite Titans of all time. We'll be drafting those. Each of us get 4 picks. B-Will's got the first pick today, and we're going to roll through that. So nothing can go wrong with that. I'm sure you guys will agree with all of our picks. But how are we doing today, gentlemen?
Well, good, man. Can't complain. Good.
Yeah, make sure you go follow B-Will at B-Will TFTV and Jonathan at Esports Valen. How you doing, Jonathan?
Good. Doing really good. Had a solid week. Looking forward to free agency as we creep closer, and obviously the draft talk is happening. One thing I wanted to say, too, just open with this. I've always been a big proponent of this. Everyone likes to do their mock drafts and get into the draft season really thick, like almost right away. But the biggest thing that I want to discuss is free agency is going to happen and shake things up so drastically that everything that we've been mocking and predicting, a lot of it is going to change. So obviously we're going to have fun today, but as free agency gets here, closer, starting in Monday, and then throughout the rest of the week, we're going to see a lot of change.
We're a week away from free agency, so we're about to get the party started. This is the last mock draft that'll probably mean nothing at all, and then anything going forward, we can actually get a better idea after that. But we're still going to discuss it. We're going to hop into that, and if anything, we'll teach you about a couple more of these prospects coming out, how we feel about them, and going from there. But if you're checking us out for the first time, make sure you head over to Sherwood.tv/glory. It's our affiliate partner. This week, for anybody that drops a comment down in the chat and is subscribed over on YouTube, we'll be picking a winner at the end of the week on Sunday that we'll be sending out a box of their Kingdom candy. So we got what is this one? The salted caramel crunch. And then we also got the
everybody loves candy.
Chip. Everybody loves candy. You wouldn't know that there's broccoli, and it's all healthy for you. It's sugar-free. It's a meal replacement bar. Absolutely delicious, though. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to get this party started. We're going to be doing today's draft over at PFF. Last week, we used NFL Draft Fanatics. We had a great time with them, and we'll probably throw in another one in the future after this free agency gets kicked off. But again, make sure you head over to YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. How we got today's draft going is it goes me first, B-Will second, Jonathan third, and we're going to roll through these. But the 101, I'm starting with Chicago. I think it goes without saying. This is Caleb Williams. They have Justin Fields. The trade talks are warming up. I think he will be traded before the draft. I think it's probably going to be a second-round pick. They haven't got what they've been looking for, is what's been reported. I think they're trying to get first. Yeah. And out of these 4 teams, there's only one Justin Fields. There's only one Kirk Cousins. So a lot of these teams are still going to be quarterback needy, which is why we're doing this. But we're going to start with Caleb Williams. I think he's I don't like the word generational prospect, but he's as close as you can probably get. Ever since he's been a true freshman at Oklahoma, he has shown everything that you're looking for. The only thing that you're worried about maybe is the intangibles. Does he have it between the ears kind of thing? And I think he does. I think he's going to be a great pro at the next level, and he will fit great into that Chicago's offense, I believe. Well, we'll go and draft him. And all right, B-Will, you are on the clock with Washington.
Man, with Washington. So I think that they're going to go Drake May here. I'm not buying into all the Jaden Daniels hype as of late. I think it's really a result of, the combine. People spreading rumors there. It's similar to the CJ Stroud thing about how rumors spread, trying to tank his value a little bit. I think Washington would be silly to miss out on Drake May here. I'm a lot higher on him than others. I mean, I think he'll be a solid quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, it's
And they need
not
quarterback.
Drake. I see Drake very similar to how I saw Will Levis coming out last season. There are amazing traits. There's the arm talent; he can throw it on a rope, and he similarly to Will Levis last season or the season before last when he was coming out, he lost all the talent around him, and it's hard to evaluate him based upon that. And I think he does have what it takes. I am a little bit lower on him than consensus, but who's the draft expert that came out? Chris Sims had him as QB6 the other day. Chris, he hits.
You got to take his takes with a grain of salt.
Yeah, you do, but he gets them right a lot of the times
Yeah.
as well. I don't have him as QB6. I have him as QB, I believe it's 3. There's a guy that I have that's very close to him. We'll get into that later. But all right, Jonathan, you're on the clock with the Patriots.
Okay. Are we doing trades or no trades?
We can always discuss trades. I'm always more than happy to do that.
Okay. So if the board falls like this, and I disagree with B Will a little bit here. I think Jane Daniels, excuse me, is as advertised. So I think the Patriots trade out of this pick. And I think there's a couple of teams that would be willing to do it at this point. Obviously, that's hard to predict because free agency hasn't started. We don't know where Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, Justin Fields are going. So in this scenario, I think that the Patriots are trading with the Giants. I think if Jaden Daniels is available, Jaden Daniels, very polished. You saw his progression through the year, had an absolutely outstanding year. Now, the one thing I will give B Will is that Jaden Daniels had some elite talent around him. So, but we don't knock Joe Burrow for that, right? So I think that it's fair to say, like, with NFL talent around him, he played very well and he progressed from the start of the season. I think his first snap was like he just like ran it up the middle and tried to like hurdle a guy and got like 2 yards or something. And then you started seeing his pocket progression, being able to throw off platform. Obviously, he's super athletic. I mean, he has all the tools. So in this case, in this scenario, I think that the Patriots are trading with the Giants. I think the Giants are going to go, okay, look, we only have to go a couple of spots here. We're probably looking at wide receiver, but since he's there at 3 and the Patriots maybe aren't sold on drafting a quarterback, which is kind of how I feel, I think the Patriots would be happy with one of these wide receivers. Could be just a whim, who knows? The Patriots might end up saying like, hey, we need this guy, and they might go ahead and snag him. But I think if this scenario really happens, then it's going to be a trade. It would likely be picks. They would obviously swap 6 and 3, their first overall picks here. They would only move a couple spots. For the Giants, luckily they have a pair of second-round picks, so maybe they send Seattle's 47, and maybe they swap a late-round pick. I think that would be plenty to trade, 4 spots or so. And I think that the Patriots would be more inclined to accept an offer from a Giants as opposed to maybe Minnesota or Las Vegas, who would definitely be calling at this point to see what that price tag would be. It would be a little easier for the Patriots to just slide back 4 spots and still land a blue chip player to make an impact for their team. And so that's what I think would happen if things fell this way.
It's just the Patriot way to trade back, ain't it? Because, Belichick left, but a lot of those scouts, a lot of those front office guys are still a lot of the same people from what I understand.
Oh, yeah.
So it ain't much changed up there in New England. So I could definitely see this happening.
So looking at, this is the same trade that happened in the Sam Darnold draft. So the Jets were at 6 and Indy was at 3. It was a swap of the first, 2 second-round picks, and I believe a second-round pick in the following year. So that lines up,
look at this guy.
identical.
He's coming with the facts. The receipts.
So, look at that. Force this trade real quick.
They're like, of course they wouldn't do this. Yeah, I think in this scenario where Jaden Daniels is there, like it, I'm kind of with you, right? Like I'm high on Drake Mays as a talent, and I think he's better than he's kind of getting pushed down the line, and I think that he is a better prospect than that, and I think he's going to be one of the top quarterbacks from this draft class. He's very, very good. His decision making is better than people are saying it is. A lot of things he does better than they're saying it is. But I think Jaden Daniels is as advertised, given what he's done this past season. So yeah, I think he would fetch multiple teams trying to trade up, and I think the Giants would go, you know what, we're at 6. We are far more likely to get the favorable nod in a trade. Like, let's just go for it. And I think Rich Eisen is he said very clearly that he heard at the combine that the Giants are done with Daniel Jones. And I think if you have eyeballs, you would agree.
100%. All right. Well, we got Jaden. We got 3 quarterbacks already off the board. So they're going fast
for the Titans.
100%.
Yep.
Back on the clock, we got Arizona Cardinals. So personally, if this was my pick, and I could see the Cardinals potentially trading back out as well if New England doesn't. So Arizona, last in the NFC West last season, leading receiver was Trey McBride. It's never a good sign that your tight end's your leading receiver. Hollywood's probably – yeah, he was great on mine too. Especially, I forgot who I lost, but he was my backup. Plugged and play and did great the rest of the season. But Hollywood's probably at the door. Rondale Moore really just hasn't developed. He's had the injury issues as well. They did draft Michael Wilson last season out of Stanford. Yeah. I did like what I saw from Michael Wilson, but he's not that number one guy. So I think you have to get one of your number one guys here. Personally, if this was my pick, I think Malik Neighbors actually lines up better for what Kyler Murray does well. But I understand that's not the consensus, and I'm trying to do this based upon what I think the team will do. And it's hard to go against Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, he's been great. He's got the everything that you're looking for. So we're going to go Marvin Harrison Jr. here, which leads to, I think, maybe the most pivotal point in the draft for the Titans. Which direction do the Chargers go?
So I agree with the pick above with Marvin Harrison Jr. I think Arizona is desperate for an X receiver. They've got that Rondale Moore type gadgety guy. They just need an X guy that's going to set on the line of scrimmage, say, I'm not moving. You got to guard me. You're either going to shade me over the top or you're going to shade me or bracket me underneath. So that's going to open up a lot of things for the rest of their offense. Receiver the caliber of Marvin Harrison Jr. And with the Chargers, it's really, really hard for me to believe that they're going to draft another receiver in the first round this year. But with that being said, I can't see them passing up on Malik Neighbors either. I mean, Malik Neighbors is wide receiver 1A, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is wide receiver A or wide receiver B, 1B. So I have to go Neighbors here. As I don't think if we were to not trade out of 7, if we were not to trade out of 7, I don't think Neighbors and Harrison Jr. would be there anyway, just because them two guys are hard to pass up on. I can't imagine 6 teams passing up on them 2 guys, man.
I see it. I mean, Quentin Johnston, I was never high on last season. Keenan Allen's, he's aging out. No. Mike Williams, one of them's probably going to be cut just based upon where their cap is. So they got to get another guy. Malik Neighbors could really take that Keenan Allen role, I think, in the near future. And Justin Herbert's got to have somebody to throw the ball to. So I definitely could see that pick happening. And looks like, Jonathan, you just traded with yourself back on the clock. We have the Patriots.
Yeah. So in this scenario, again, it can't be understated that the Patriots very well could go quarterback. And the reason why I keep finding myself leaning towards them just adding a playmaker is because they're sitting at 3, where undoubtedly quarterback are going 1 and 2. So really, they could just stay and take Marvin Harrison Jr., and that would be a solid pick as well. But I think in this scenario, them being able to acquire some assets, some draft assets with the new coaching regime, with the new non-Belichick regime, makes a ton of sense. And then they still get a blue chip player here, right? So I think right here, it pains me as a Titans fan here, who is quickly falling deep in love with this guy as a prospect. But I think in this scenario, the Patriots go Rome Odunze. Rome has impressed immensely. I mean, obviously, he has all the intangibles to be that big body X receiver that is probably the best receiver in contested catches. I mean, he goes up and makes a big play. So he would be a great asset to any team, especially the Titans. The more and more tape I watch of him, the more and more I fall in love with him. He's going to be incredible. And it looks like Devontae Parker probably not returning for the Patriots. Kendrick Bourne probably not returning. It looks like their wide receiver room is going to get a facelift similar to the Titans. So, why not start it with Rome Odunze getting a handful of picks as well in this scenario?
Yeah, I definitely see it. Rome's off the board. So
sucks for us, man.
I could see the draft playing out this way where it goes 3 quarterbacks, 3 wide receivers, just because I think those might be the most talented players in the draft by itself. Would be super interesting to see it play out that way, but I think that is a realistic possibility. But now Tennessee Titans are on the clock. Joe Alt's still on the board. So this might break a lot of Titans fans' hearts that we're going to be trading back, but this is not the point of this. It's looking at the scenario. It's very likely that Alt is off the board at this point as well, or Rome, or whoever your guy is. So we are going to be trading back here, and that's going to be with the Las Vegas Raiders. So,
and honestly, we trading back with the Raiders here and get some picks with the board shaking out as it is. I'm not mad at it, to be honest. I'm not.
No,
I'm not going to go to Twitter firing off my fingers on draft night saying what the F, No, I would be happy with this if we get a good haul in it.
I am almost always team trade back regardless of situation. I do almost never like trading up unless it is to get your guy at quarterback. And then with that, it's a lot of the times that's not going to work out either. I think trading back, getting more step ups to the plate, we have to understand with the draft, our rankings, however good you are at figuring out who's going to be a good player, it's a crapshoot. It just is. So you could argue, hey, I'm going to get this blue chip talent, but is it going to equate to 2 good players? Right. And with the state of this roster, you need good players. You need good players in every position. Through the draft, you have to build through the draft.
The first 150 picks of this draft are going to be chef's kiss. You know what I'm saying? So and
it's all in positions that we need. It's all premium positions: O-line, wide receiver, corner. So I mean, obviously, we need interior offensive linemen, linebackers. We need interior defensive linemen and edge rushers. But those aren't. When you look at the war, wins above replacement, those aren't the positions that you're needing. So we are going to be trading back here. 7, obviously, we're going to swap first-round picks. 44, definitely coming. I could see them throwing in an additional 4th, 5th round this season. Or I think more realistically is it's probably going to be a 2nd or 3rd next season on top of that, with maybe another late round pick this year.
So can we talk about who they're coming up for, right? So it seems all signs are pointing to JJ McCarthy, right? A quarterback is who you trade up for. Another thing too that might be on the table is, a team willing to come up and maybe their eyes are on Joe Alt and maybe they're wanting to do that, maybe like the Jets or somebody. But yeah, I think in this scenario, the Raiders really want their guy in JJ McCarthy. So you're trading for a quarterback. Now, the other thing is that if this happens like this, regardless, right, whether it's Neighbors, Odunze, or Joe Alt that's sitting there at 7, when the Titans are talking about trading out, they don't have to, right? Ren Carthon, what he said at the combine was real. He's like, look, I could take this guy. We could take Joe Alt and do backflips and be stoked and have our guy at left tackle, right? But I think what's going to happen, we're going to talk about it later, is the Titans might find some sort of stopgap at left tackle in free agency, add some serious talent, and then teams aren't going to know what the Titans want to do. And the Titans might be okay with passing on it, so the trade back makes sense. But the next thing I want to bring up, pick 44. So I know that, several years back, Josh Allen, the trade where Buffalo trades up with the Buccaneers, I think it was 10 spots or something like that. And I think the compensation there was 2 second-round picks and a 7th-round swap or something like that. Is that correct? So I think that we might be talking about similar compensation in this draft, because you're talking about a swap for a quarterback. And guess what? Ren Carthon's going to be on the phone with more than one team. It's not just going to be the Raiders if this is the case. Denver's going to be interested. Minnesota probably interested. And it kind of depends on where these free agent quarterbacks land. But if these teams miss out on those guys, let's say Kirk Cousins doesn't go to Atlanta and Atlanta doesn't find their solution, it's not Justin Fields. then Atlanta is in the mix. So it's like there's some factors there. But yeah, I'm thinking like 2 seconds, but pick 44 might as well be a first-round pick in this draft, fellas.
In this draft,
Oh, yeah.
sure. Especially with all these quarterbacks that have gone early. You're going to have four quarterbacks guaranteed going in the first 45 picks. So that's just that much talent being pushed down to 44. So, I wouldn't be mad at this. And I think it'd be a good coup for Rand to be able to fleece whoever trades up. If we're in this scenario, whoever trades up for that pick, and be able to trust the scouts and trust the process, something they've been preaching.
And I think the 7th pick, you have, if you're one of those 4 teams that are looking to move up, and you didn't get a Kirk Cousins or Justin Fields, Atlanta right behind us, if they don't get them either, they're taking a quarterback. So you have to jump up here.
Yes.
It's a must.
That is a perfect point. Like, so best case scenario for the Titans, 100% best case scenario, is some of these wide receivers get taken early. The top 3 gets taken early. You're sitting at 7, and J.J. McCarthy is as advertised on the hype side, and the Falcons don't end up with their guy. And if that happens, then we're looking at a gold mine, right? Because then there's that pressure from the Falcons to say, okay, well, we'll just sit here and get our guy then if that doesn't happen. Or maybe the Falcons try to swap with the Chargers at that point. Everything changes if the Falcons don't get their quarterback.
Oh, definitely.
Do you think that's the best case scenario, even regarding if we were to be able to get one of the top 3 receivers?
I think it's the best case scenario
so.
in terms of where the position the Titans would be. So like Rand Carthon gets to leverage. You know what I'm saying? Like he gets the phone call is free. It's free because if you call and say, hey, look, this is what we're going to need. I need 2 second-round picks and I need a 4th this year or whatever, right? Something crazy compensation-wise. And if someone says no, it's like, cool, okay, I can call 3 more teams. And if all you guys say no, then I'm going to take my wide receiver of the future. You're like, I'm chilling. So, yeah, I think that's best case scenario in terms of where it puts the Titans positionally.
I just think that's gambling a little too much day of type thing. If one of those 3 receivers are there, I don't want us passing on one of those 3 receivers, to be honest. I mean, who's to say that we'll be drafting this high again? I mean, I know that's me talking as a Titans fan, but also realistically, we shouldn't be drafting in the top 10 next year. We should at least be middle of the pack, I'd say. I'm not expecting us to be even in the 20s, but we'd be drafting around 15, 16, 17, 18. We've been there for years, and we know what type of talent is there, receiver-wise. We were in that purgatory for years. So I think best case, for me at least, would be to grab one of the top 3 receivers. If they're not there, then I agree wholeheartedly with you of trading back for sure. But I think we got to get one of those top 3 guys.
I think if they are to get one of the big 3, I think it is Rome. And if it's Rome or trade back, I'm going trade back. But if Neighbors or Harrison are on the board, which I would be very hesitant to say that they are, if they are amazing, I would be more than okay with drafting them. But personally, I would like to trade back. Raiders moved up to 7. We've got this J.J. McCarthy hype train rolling this past week, ever since the combine, really. I don't either. Personally, I have him as QB 5 behind Bo Nix and Michael Penix. And looking at how Spencer Rattler played in the Senior Bowl, they're very neck and neck for me. Currently, I have McCarthy higher, but around the league, and this could be teams just lying because they like one of these other guys more. I think we do go McCarthy here just because of how everybody has been talking, and consensus-wise, he is higher on most boards. So we'll go with him. And then
pray for Antonio Pierce.
Yeah. Poor guy's going to lose his
gone.
job.
He's gone if they draft J.J. McCarthy. But it's a viable scenario, and it's something they would do.
I think he's more of a stopgap coach more than anything. I think it's a 1-year rental for him. If he does perform well, keep him around. But I think they didn't get who they were looking for in this coaching cycle, and they're looking towards the future. Who can they get up? And then they very likely might be picking around this range, if not higher next season. So
it's possible.
We're at the Falcons. Who had the last pick? Is it back to me? I'm back on the clock. So we got the Falcons here.
Jake. Do the madness.
Yeah.
Let's go 2015 Patriots.
First season under Raheem Morris.
Take Julio Jones here.
You can't roll out Heineke or Ritter next season. Man. And then, dream pick for them would be Odunze here, I think. Do we just go full meme war and give him Bowers. Pair
I'm
him
saying,
up with Kyle Pitts.
Let's go full Patriots, man. Double tight
Yeah.
ends, and make them guard them.
It's hard because, I mean, if you're going, they just need a wide receiver. I think Bowers is probably the best wide receiver still on the board, regardless of position.
I think they probably trade back here, to be honest. If they can.
I think they would love to trade back. If they are in love with one of these quarterbacks, I could see it, but I could also see them trading back and trying to acquire one of those too. So I think, man, that's a tough one. It's the toughest one of the draft, I think. We're doing it though. We're going Brock Bowers, the Atlanta Falcons, pairing him up with Kyle Pitts.
Best tight end room ever.
And I would be excited to
Most
see
athletic
that.
tight end room ever of all time.
It's going to destroy your fantasy teams because it makes both of them irrelevant. They're coming out. Oh man, it's going to be a fun team to watch, and they got Drake London on the outside too. So that they got
12
size.
personnel all the time, every play.
100% 12 personnel. Bijan out of the backfield. I mean that could be a dynamic offense if you had a quarterback. Unfortunately, they don't have one as of right now. So maybe they do get lucky with the Fields or the Cousins. If I was one of those guys, that's where I would want to go. And we do know Justin Fields is from the Atlanta area, so he could go home. So we'll see there. But all right, we got Chicago back on the board after taking Caleb Williams and presumably trading away Justin Fields. Back to you, B. Will.
What's Chicago's left tackle situation look like? Their tackle situation
is it Tevin Jenkins?
I think so. I'll pull it up.
I've seen a lot of people pairing Caleb Williams with one of the left tackles, to be honest. Just getting his protection out the way, something you don't have to worry about. I wouldn't be mad at it, and you can't go wrong with it, you know. So I don't see them passing. Joe Alt's a Midwest guy, if by all accounts, if I'm not mistaken. I could honestly see them.
Braxton Jones, that's right.
Yeah.
Tevin's on the other side, right tackle, I think.
Tevin's left guard for him is what they currently have listed.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And they drafted Darnell Wright last season out of Tennessee.
Oh, freak.
That's right. Freak athlete. Yep. Big guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, my. So Joe Alt's not in the equation here. And I don't see them taking Cooper DeJean at 9. I really honestly would see them trading back here, maybe pick swapping with the Jets. I could see the Jets trying to get up here because somebody's going to try and get up to 9 and get Joe Alt as a left tackle at 9.
Yep.
He's not getting out the top 10.
If they get Joe Alt, that is their dream scenario. They need tackle. And I think if somebody else is wanting to move up for Alt, I mean, I could see them moving the one spot and trading a little bit of capital away just to secure him.
Right. Because they've got plenty of draft capital. So I could honestly see them trading up to 8 to get Alt and not even giving, anybody a chance at 9.
I don't know if the Jets do. I don't think they have a 3rd round pick. I think they have double 4ths, a 1st, a 2nd, and 2
I was trying to remember if they even had a 2nd.
They don't have a 2nd, but they're going to get that with Fields. So if they get that with Fields.
Oh, no, sorry. I was talking about the Jets. My bad.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. So I could see them.
Yeah, Jets don't have a 2nd.
They'll have a 2nd
Bears
after
don't
Fields.
either.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think the comp will be if they were to trade from 10 to 9 to make sure they get Alt? Because I don't see a need here for Chicago at this point. Maybe they go Quinion Mitchell, one of the corners, to pair with Jalen Johnson because they'll pay him, and then you have another rookie corner on the other end, and that sort of solidifies your defense for Eberflus. So
Chicago has definitely proven in the past that they do like trading back. If they were
especially
just to
Ryan
move
Poles,
one
man.
spot, I don't think you could get.
You don't get it. It wouldn't be much.
I don't know if the Jets do. I don't know if the Jets give up any compensation here, only because it's one spot. And if someone trades into 9 with the Bears and they take Joe Alt, then the Jets go, okay, I guess we're taking another project in Fashanu, or however you pronounce his name now.
I just don't think
Fashanu.
they have the draft capital to give up to do it. I think they would like to. I don't think they could. If they did, I think we're looking at maybe a 3rd round next season. Is kind of what I'm thinking.
But if we don't do a trade, then I could see them going defensive back for sure. I don't see them drafting a center this high. Byron Murphy is enticing, but I would see them probably going corner and not being DeJean.
What about edge?
So-
What about pass rusher? They need pass rushers. Dallas Turner may be an option here.
Yeah, that's a shout. Go back up we'll go edge or corner, one of the two. If you could just sort those two, and then we'll get it there.
Yeah, I think edge makes a ton of sense. They really need some help at pass rush.
That's just the thing, though. I'm gonna go Quinion Mitchell. I think they'll go Quinion Mitchell, try and get somebody on the opposite of Jalen Johnson.
I think he's my CB1 now.
Yeah.
He has nailed this draft process.
Mhm.
Has the tape, showed out at the Senior Bowl, maybe the best player there, showed out at the Combine. And when I compare him to somebody like Cooper DeJean, I don't think is the consensus number one. I think it is Terrion Arnold at this point. But when I look at the two, I think Quinion's just a better athlete. I think technically he's better. He didn't play at the level of Alabama, but if he had an Alabama helmet on when he was playing out there, this dude would be undoubtedly a top 5 pick in my opinion.
Saban coaching. I mean, he's so sticky, man. And
Well,
that's going to be a good secondary.
This isn't any fun.
It's pretty easy.
The Jets are sprinting to the podium. They're like, holy cow, we got our guy.
Travondre Sweat.
It feels so strange. Yeah. It feels so weird that Joe Alt in this scenario falls to 10. It doesn't feel right. Because as much as, we've said like Fashanu is really great. He's got the intangibles. He's super athletic, yada, yada. Joe Alt tested like a freak at the Combine. He tested probably way better than a lot of us thought he was going to. And he, in my opinion, did solidify himself as left tackle 1, offensive lineman 1 in the entire draft. He is going to be an absolute stud. The Jets are stoked. The Titans passing on him is going to be crazy. He's going to be incredible. Jets finally get their guy at left tackle, run up to the podium and do backflips in New Jersey or wherever they're at.
I mean, it's money for them. I mean, that's a dream pick for them.
You think Keith Carter ruins him?
I don't think Keith Carter could ruin him if he tried. I think he's that good.
He could ruin anything he touches. He could ruin the Sunday dinner.
That Jets coaching staff.
Taylor Lewan still had a really great career when he was healthy, right? So, and he was technically sound, very good at what he did, and Joe Alt is going to be that. So, I think it's not going to help him a bunch. I'm not a Keith Carter fan for reasons that we all understand, but I think that he'll be fine.
All right. Well, we got Minnesota back on the board, and hey, if while we're here, we got like 180 people checking us out right now. If you're checking us out on Twitter, make sure you go join the conversation over at YouTube. That way we can see your guys' comments. That way you can join the talk. Tell us where we're wrong here. So just search up Glory Day Sports. It'll pop up. We're live now, so it should
like
show
the
up
video
for
as
you.
well.
Yeah, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, punch the notification bell, all those good fancy YouTube terms. So we got Minnesota here. So I think without a doubt, Kirk Cousins is out of the building, and Justin Jefferson has kind of came out and said, hey, I want money. You got to keep that man happy. I think he's the best wide receiver in the league right now.
Yeah.
You could go quarterback here, and really debating upon that. They could go right tackle here. They could go corner here, and there's lots of talent in both of those positions. So
you think it's safe to assume they maybe land one of the free agent quarterbacks since they didn't trade up in this draft?
I think they could. They could. And if I'm one of those free agent quarterbacks, this is where I want to go. So you could definitely see a Russell Wilson in Minnesota next season, I think. And I think I'm not a big fan of Russell at this point in his career, but I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense. And they might throw one of their next picks at a Michael Pratt out of Tulane, take a flower and Jordan Travis once he's healthy. I could definitely see that, and Russell being that stopgap for him. So I'm looking at this, and I'm debating between two players, and that's going to be Talisi Fuaga, or personally, I would go Kamari Lassiter, but I know Terrion Arnold's probably that next guy off the board, and I'm going Fuaga here. He's going to be tackle 2 off the board, right behind Joe Alt. I think he's a destroyer of men on the right side, and I think he could potentially play on the left if you wanted to do that. It would take some time to develop him there, The arm length is long enough. That's all you need, in my opinion. So, all right, we're back to Denver.
Denver here, they need a lot. They need a quarterback. They also need receivers too. And I think Sean Payton, as an offense coach, he's going to want to get a receiver in there that one of his guys, a guy that he trusts. They're shopping Jerry Jeudy again. This guy's been shopped so much. You would have thought he had a Louis Vuitton sponsor, but Cortland Sutton too. He's been shopped. He's got a Gucci sponsor. So, this Sean Payton's trying to sort of clean house or turn over this receiver room. I see them taking the best receiver available, which to me at this point is probably going to be Brian Thomas Jr. That's who I would see Denver taking, and they're going to figure it out at quarterback next year. I think they'll be bad again, and then they might be able to get a quarterback. If they don't, well, they're not going to be able to sign one because they owe Russ what is his dead cap? It's something insane.
$39 million, I think.
$39 million.
Yeah.
Like what the hell? But I think they go Brian Thomas Jr. here, get them a receiver, and they'll figure it out at quarterback and be bad again next year. So,
look, I'm sitting in my living room a day after, or actually, I think this is on my birthday. It's either that or the day before my birthday. I'm sitting in my living room. I got my Titans gear on. I'm watching this go down. I'm like, oh, we traded back. We got some good compensation. I'm happy. Let's go. I'm punching the air right now. If Brian Thomas Jr. gets the pick before us. I love Brian Thomas Jr. People are like, okay, obviously it's clear he's wide receiver 4. He's wide receiver 4 for me in this draft, but by proxy. If this guy was in last year's draft or the year before, he's wide receiver 1 or 2. You know what I'm saying? Like, he is a stud. He is so, so good. Way better than I thought he was. I didn't get to watch him a lot during the year. Like, I felt like Malik Neighbors kind of overshadowed him, but there were so many scenarios where Brian Thomas Jr. was the guy, the target for Jaden Daniels, and was making huge plays. So, big body guy. I really, really loved watching him play. The structure, like his body type for how fast he is, insane, absolutely insane. He's a freak athlete, punch in the air. If I'm a Titans,
got so much room to grow too. He does.
He does.
Oh yeah, but this can't be worse than the AJ Brown draft. Can't be.
Yeah,
we've got experience with this.
Yep.
So can we recap what we got in our trade with the Raiders? We got 13, 44, and then what else?
Then we got a swap of 7ths.
Okay.
We got their 6th, and they got our first 7th. So
got it.
And then we're looking at.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was saying I guess the 25 pick doesn't matter in our mock draft, but cool. Okay. All right. So am I making this pick or are we making it together?
So we're making this one together. We'll collectively decide upon this. And I mean, we need talent everywhere. Everybody in the comment section is going to be pounding the table for a tackle here. And I don't think they're wrong, especially with Olu still on the board. You could go edge, I guess, to pair with Harold Landry. I think he's maybe the best number 2 edge in the league. I don't think he's number 1, though. Sack Merchant off the other side. Jackson Power Johnson, I think, is still slept on, even at 19. You could go Latham. Marius Mims is about as upside as you could go there. Wide receiver. I mean, I think Brian Thomas
Mitchell
Jr.
is wide receiver 5, maybe, right?
Yeah, I think he would be. He's the next one on my board, followed by Troy, and then I think I have Pretty Ricky right down there, ahead of Roman and Ladd. So, but I do see.
Man.
I see how he could be successful, and I do like Ladd, and I think I do have a first-round grade on him. I just like the other guys a little bit more. But I do see that clear drop off after Brian Thomas Jr. I think it's a big 3, and you could argue big 4, and then next tier. And I would prefer those guys in the second more than I would in the first, in my opinion. So Trey Fontenot showed out that he does have the arm length at the combine. That was his biggest question mark coming into that. And
his arms measure at?
I want to say it was like 35, 34 and a half, somewhere around there. Long enough. And then from there, I mean, who would be the next one? Latham, Mims, very similar players. I think Latham is more polished, but he's also had a lot more reps in comparison to Mims. But Mims is a mountain. He's got Isaiah Wilson-esque athletic feats. but
Yes.
maybe better in the noggin. So we'll give him that. So what are we thinking here, gentlemen? We're thinking tackle. We're thinking.
Well,
have we taken a defensive player? Okay, Quinion Mitchell.
I think the one thing I would say here that's interesting, again, so many factors that roll into this.
Yep.
If the Titans, let's say the Titans sign Mekhi Becton in free agency, doesn't necessarily say that he's like the guy going into the season, or are they saying, well, we can flip him to right tackle if we find our left tackle in the draft? That's a possibility. So I think it's going to matter. Like free agency is going to be very telling on what they kind of look at here. Unfortunately, I think AD Mitchell or someone like that is probably like a pick 13 is a little high. And I think you just take your tackle at this point with some really great talent. But the question I have for you guys is, well, I guess the other thing was with Tyrion Arnold on the board. That's a potential decision too, right? But my question for you guys is with Olu, I didn't feel like, obviously he didn't have the best combine, or maybe the combine we were, expecting him to have. But I don't, we know what's on the tape. And at the end of the day, you have to use the combine as a, where are these guys at right now? Can we learn some things that we don't know about these guys? That's really what we're looking for. Overall, we know based on how Olu played throughout his career that, I mean, this guy is a pass protecting demon. He is athletic. I don't care if he's got tiny baby hands. He showed that he could put those hands to use. So him having not a fantastic combine doesn't necessarily change my opinion of him. If he's sitting at 13, where for the majority of the season, like he was mocked as like a top, 6, 7, 8 pick, or at least a top 10 pick at the very least. If he's sitting at 13, then I think that's the Titans pick. But I'm intrigued to know what you guys think. Like he didn't have the best combine. So does that hurt him at all?
I think you have to, at 13, if Olu's there, you absolutely have to take Olu Fashanu. He didn't do everything in the combine, but he did enough to show his explosiveness. He was explosive in his 10-yard split. He was explosive in his broad jump, explosive in his vertical jump. So that explosiveness that people talked about on tape was verified at the combine. We just didn't really see him do a lot of the other stuff, the drills and all that, which he would have been exceptional in because that's his strength, especially pass blocking. So, I think he did enough at the combine. I don't think durability is an issue for him either. People want to say, durability issues. There were 4 guys that went down at the combine. They got to do something about that. The structure of how they're doing their day for the big guys. But I've taken Olu in mini mocks at 7. So I absolutely cannot pass on him at 13 for just the value. We're basically getting paid to take Olu Fashanu. Think about it that way. We're getting second round picks.
Yep.
I mean, come on now. I think this is a blatant pick, and this is a coup for Rand Carthon at the end of the day if we do this. I'm extremely happy with this draft, and we get another second-round pick. We can get receivers there, or we can trade back into the first with those 2s if we absolutely need one of those receivers and get an A.D. Mitchell, get a Lad McConkey. So I think this will be an absolute coup for Rand Carthon if he could get Olu Fashanu at 13 after trading back with the Raiders.
I'm 100% in agreement. Olu, I've been a Fashanu truther ever since the beginning, and I've had him as tackle 1. Since the combine, he did have very tiny hands. I think it was 8.5, very tiny hands for a tackle, but I'm not super overly concerned about that. And in pass pro, this is that guy. Never has given up a sack at the collegiate level. So we're going over there.
I got one thing for y'all. Instead of us measuring O-linemen's hands, especially tackles, why don't we measure how hard they punch at the combine? That's a lot more applicable than how big their dang hands are.
That's true.
Pretty similar to the ball throwing they did this past season with Milton throwing at the bag and stuff. You're just trying to add in as many variables as you can to figure out. It's all just a piece of the puzzle.
Right.
I don't think the hand size is nothing, but I don't think it's next to nothing.
He punches like a demon. I'm not worried about his hand size.
No.
That's my thing too. Like if you have the arm length and your punch is technically sound, I'm not worried about like your hands are maybe an inch or 2 like smaller than the average or whatever it was, right? Like that's just you're grasping at straws at that point. Like again, like when you look at the tape, not only is he technically sound, he is the most athletic player on the line of scrimmage almost in every single snap. And I think that is more telling than anything. So I am 100% with you guys. If we trade down and we get pick 44 and we still get Olu at 13, I mean, massive W for Carthon.
I'm super happy with that. All right, we're up to the Saints. Pick 14, and Jonathan, you're on the board, correct?
Yes. Saints are upset. Talise Fuaga would have been a fantastic fit here. Looking at their team as a whole, it's kind of tough. There's a lot of talent that fits really nicely here. I mean, Dallas Turner's still there, Jared Verse. They've spent some capital on the defensive line in recent drafts that have paid dividends for them. I think it was Brian Burns or something, or Breesy. I always mess up his last name, but he was really good in his rookie year. And I think that there's a ton of talent there that they might not necessarily have to go that route. I've seen from Saints Twitter that they are less than pleased with their tackle play. But at the same time, I don't think that it's not a revolving door necessarily. So the Saints could very well go tackle here, like a JC Latham makes sense. Amarius Mims, I think, is in play here. But I see that there's a lot of really great talent. So if you scale up the board a little bit there, I mean, Tyrion Arnold is still there. They just lost Marcus May, who obviously is playing safety, but they're losing some talent on the back end of that defense. Cooper DeJean might make a ton of sense here. I don't think he gets picked over Tyrion, but
I don't think he goes over Wiggins either.
Yeah, probably not. But I think Cooper DeJean would be a consideration just because of his versatility. Like, you could literally move him anywhere in the secondary, and he's going to be a productive athlete for you. So this one's tough. I don't think they go edge rusher, even though there's a ton of talent there. I think there's a chance that a team tries to trade up for, like, Dallas Turner, for example. There's a couple of teams that are on the cusp on the 2019 area, like maybe the Rams potentially. But I think we'll just stick and pick here. I'm torn because I don't know if corner is necessarily a huge need for them versus tackle, where they could get someone like a JC Latham, which honestly could play left tackle. He's really versatile. He's the other guy out of these prospects that I really like in terms of his versatility. They're not really talking about that as much, just because all of his starts were at right tackle. Doesn't mean that he wouldn't be able to flip over there. So you know what? That's what I'm going to roll with. I'm just going to roll with tackle, even though I think Tyrion Arnold is a huge consideration here. I'm going to go with JC Latham. I think he is probably tackle 3. He's more versatile than I think a lot of people give him credit for. He played the top talent and did very, very well. And worst case scenario, if they keep, I forget the guy's last name for the Saints who plays left tackle. It's like some long, like, Russian name or something. I can't forget, but off the top of my head. But regardless, if they just need to stick JC Latham at right tackle, then they've added some serious talent there. And I think they do need some upgrades on offensive line.
Oh, definitely. I know they've kind of floated out, or maybe it's not them, maybe it's just media, talk about Marshawn Lattimore as a potential trade candidate this season. So if they did that, maybe corner is more of a need.
Yep.
But as of right now, I think tackle is right there with quarterback for him.
Right.
But we got the Colts coming up. Indianapolis, they tagged Pittman. So wide receiver core is kind of patched together. They could still go wide receiver here if they wanted to. I think this is like maybe the floor, absolute floor for Brock Bowers, obviously already off the board. So, and with the receiver talent lacking here, I think it's edge or corner. I think that's where they have to go here.
Yep. Tough choice for them. Top corner and top edge on the board, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And personally,
they'll find a way to mess it up.
They'll find a way to mess it up. And
we hope so.
And Jared Verse, I think, might be my edge one now. He's
a freak.
The question coming into the combine was, is he athletic enough? And he passed that
Certainly
test with flying colors. So
yeah.
I'm going to throw a curveball here, and I'm actually going to go Jared Verse to Indy, and I hate it.
Great pick.
Seattle. Well, they just gutted their whole DB room, didn't they?
It feels like it.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Diggs, Jamal Adams. I think they go DB here. Honestly, they're pretty set at receiver, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'm really high on him. I think he'll do well out there next year. They've got their stopgap quarterback.
Should have been a Titan.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
They got their stopgap quarterback in Geno. I wouldn't be mad to see them trade back here and try and get maybe Penix and let him sit behind Geno for a little bit. I would like to see that, honestly, but I think they take a corner here, and I think it'll be Nate Wiggins. That's who I think.
They have shown that they like the speed on the outside.
Yes, and Mike McDonald wants a guy. So
he wants
I could see him going DeJean there too, though, because of the versatility with DeJean. He could use him similar to how he used Kyle Hamilton in Baltimore. But those two guys ain't even in the same conversation, so that's why I don't even go DeJean there. But
that's what I was going to lead to. As DeJean he's that size and speed guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's 6'2", if I remember right off the top of my head, 6'1", 207. So he's a bigger corner in this class. And even though he did not test at the combine due to him breaking his leg late last season, dude is an athlete. He is all over the field, and he could play safety if he wanted to. I think corner is where he'll stick at. So Nate Wiggins, Cooper DeJean, you could go Terrion Arnold there. I think they kind of just got the pick of the litter of who they like the best there, and I don't think there is a wrong option. All right, we're up to Jacksonville.
Well, I guess I'm just going to keep getting these picks that are just incredibly, incredibly easy because the Jacksonville is sprinting to the podium. Super excited. They land their guy. They're going Terrion Arnold, who is arguably cornerback 1 in this draft. They just cut their top producing corner, I should say, last season. So they have a huge, huge need in that room. Obviously, they have a handful of needs on defense. I think their offensive line could get better. Like a tackle might not even be a horrible pick here for Jacksonville because there's a really good tackle talent. But
what about their need at quarterback?
Apparently, those are fighting words. I'm gonna stay away from that. But I think that Terrion Arnold, the fact that he slides to 17 is bonkers to me. I think that I have him as my cornerback 1 by a slight margin. I think these guys that were taken are very, very close. But Jacksonville,
him and Quignon are right there neck and neck.
They're 1A, 1B for sure. So I think they would be stoked to have Terrion there.
All right, we got the Bengals here. So, I mean, you look at it; they've got what they need. You could go wide receiver here to maybe be the eventual replacement for T if they were to lose him after this season. Tackle is overwhelmingly a need, though, if Jonah Williams exits the building. So looking at the tackles that are left on the board, it's Troy Fontenot, Marius Mims, Graham Barton, who is kind of that Swiss Army knife there. Tyler Guyton is very athletic. I'm an Oklahoma fan myself. Tyler Guyton is not that guy. That's kind of how I see him. Never has been.
Drawing a line in the sand.
Yeah, drawing a line in the sand. I actually like Walter Rouse, who played left tackle, who's also in this draft, more than I like Guyton. He is not as athletic, but he has the physical traits that he needs to thrive at the next level. He's got the arm length, and he might not be the athlete, but technically he is more sound. And I know that is a hot take, but we're going Troy Fontenot here out of Washington. Like I said, he's got the arm length he proved at the combine. He's just been solid. He's played a lot of football, high character guy. The coaches over at Washington, they just go on and on about Fontenot. So we're going Fontenot here, and I think that is a upgrade over Jonah Williams, and they get him at pick 18. So can't beat that.
I think that works out for Cincinnati as well, too, because once they have to pay Fontenot, that'll be on the tail end of some things with their other guys.
Yep.
Perfect for them.
That guy at the second level is insane. Troy he gets out in open space. Watch out. Like, he's incredible. So I think that matches kind of what the Zach Taylor offense likes to do in space, get their guys out in space and get some blockers in front. I love that pick. Let's go pick.
All right, we got LA back on the board, or not back on the board, on the board for the first time. They could go a multitude of
Los Angeles is on the board again, just a different
team. Different team.
So, they don't really – I love what McVay does out there, and I don't think they need any help on offense this early. And I also don't think that they pick in the first round either. I'm sure they'll find a way to trade out. They haven't picked in the first round in years.
Les Snead's like, this pick is burning a hole in my pocket, boys. We got to get rid of it. But no, look who's on the board. Look who's on the board right now. Dallas Turner is still there.
Oh, yeah.
Dallas Turner. They've got – can you scroll back up?
Yeah. Latu still
Dallas
there.
Turner. They got Murphy the second, who pairing him with Aaron Donald would be ridiculous.
Whew.
But Newton. For me, I see them going Turner here, even though they've got I've just said his name, I forgot. Aaron Donald. They've got Aaron Donald. You pair him with the guy on the edge. You saw what happened with Von Miller when they had him down the stretch. You get interior pressure like that. You get pressure off the edge. They're gonna be hard to beat, man.
Talking
That's if they stay there.
athletes rushing the passers, Dallas
Yes.
Turner and Aaron Donald, absolute freaks.
Right.
And I think that puts them. I mean,
For what
they
it's
can be
worth, I
back
don't
in
even see them
contention.
staying there. Honestly, I could see them trading back and taking another receiver just because McVay having his way.
I could see them trading for a player. I mean,
Yeah.
like we said, they haven't had a first round pick in forever. So,
Yeah.
All right, we're back on with Pittsburgh, who has committed to their quarterback in Kenny Pickett,
Wink, wink.
Mr.
God
Tiny
bless him.
Hands.
God bless him. Best of luck up there in Pittsburgh with that. But yeah, so I think that
O.R. for their Smith.
the good news is that they have a ton of talent here, and I think Pittsburgh has a tough choice to make, right? Because Jackson Powers Johnson, who I am really, really high on, I thought he came out and had an amazing. I mean, he had a really good season, but he had an even better Senior Bowl. Really burst onto the scene. It was like, hold on, this guy's a first round pick, bona fide first round pick, and he definitely is. But I think that in the secondary, pairing, getting Joey Porter Jr. some help and maybe adding some depth to the secondary. I mean, this is a franchise that is known for their lights out secondary play. And there's a guy on the board that just makes a ton of sense. Like he just feels like a Pittsburgh Steeler. So I think they could go in a couple of different directions here. I think Jackson Powers Johnson makes sense. I think even a tackle makes sense in this spot as well. Maybe pair somebody opposite of the Georgia product that they took last year. His name is escaping me right now. But I think for the Steelers, I'm going to go with Cooper DeJean here. I think he feels like he fits the swag of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like he just fits like their personality. And I think he would be great from a versatility standpoint too. You can move him around. That defense has shown some exotic looks in the past and does a really good job of disguising things. And I think Cooper DeJean is a perfect player to fit that type of play style. And just worst case scenario, I mean, this guy can play on the outside. Like he can absolutely ball. So pairing him with Joey Porter Jr., you have two really good, solid, young cornerstone pieces for the defense.
Not to mention they've got Minka as well too.
Oh yeah, Minka back end.
So the deception that they could have defensively up there would be absolutely insane. That's going to be a tough defense, and you got T.J. Watt rushing off the edge, and they got the other fellow on the other side rushing off the edge. So that would be a very good pick if they're going all defense. Tomlin, let's try and stop these people.
Well, that kind of makes my pick here in Miami a little bit easier.
Yeah,
because I would have gone Cooper DeJean here because they did release Xavier Howard, so they could go corner for sure. He would have been the pick. We could go with a Kool-Aid here, who would be my top corner on the board, and I think most teams. Kool-Aid's fall this past season has been very interesting because he was the same guy 2 years ago, and he was talked about as a top 5 pick. It's just everybody else has outperformed him at that point. But they also could lose Connor Williams in free agency. So they could go center here. And I think Jackson Powers Johnson is a steal at pick 21. Another guy, never allowed a sack in 3+ seasons now. Dude has just been consistent. He's got the size, showed out at the Senior Bowl. Like what I see. So we're going JPJ 221.
Brian Murphy might be an option for them too. There, it looks like they're losing Christian Wilkins.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm pissed at you if I'm an Eagles fan right now too, because I'm running to the podium for Jackson Powers Johnson.
100%.
Oh yeah.
I think the Eagles are. I think there's a potential trade up opportunity. Maybe they trade up with like the Steelers or one of those teams that are kind of like maybe LA, but there's just been so much talent falling in the teens here that I think these picks make a ton of sense for these teams.
People are really sleeping on Zach Frazier out of West Virginia as well.
He's good.
Very good.
He's very good, very consistent, very solid. I think he could be a potential first-round pick, and if he's going to somebody, probably be Philadelphia. I don't think that's probably where we're going in this draft. We could go there, but this is back up to you, B. Will. Where are we going with 22?
So I see them here taking the best DB available. I don't see them going edge. They've committed a lot of resources to the D-line. They drafted 2 interior guys in the last 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. So even though I'm sure, what's his face? What's the GM's name up there? I'm forgetting his name. We fleeced him with the Byard trade.
Howie Roseman.
Howie.
Yep.
I'm sure Howie's, licking his lips trying to get another 1 or 3 tech here because he just wants to fill the whole D line with
Bro just
tackles.
wants to fill his entire team full of
all of Georgia's defense.
Yeah, of just stud 1 techs and 3 techs. But for me here, I think they're going. Is it Kool-Aid's the best corner available here, isn't he?
So I personally have Kamari higher, but Kool-Aid is right there, right behind him.
Can you sort them? Can you sort them by? They also need a safety as well, so I could see them going Nubin. Yeah, I would say they take Kool-Aid here just so they can get some sort of normalcy there with cornerback and sort of get ushered in. I don't know if Slay is coming back. He might not, but they could let him be nurtured under Slay and just help him out with Fangio because Fangio is going to be up there. He'd like a DB. He got a DB when he went to Miami and Jalen Ramsey, so I could see the same thing going in Philly. So,
perfect. We got Kool-Aid there, and we're going to Houston, the last of the AFC South to pick. And where are we going with that, Jonathan?
Oh man, they have options too. I mean, there's so much talent in this draft. It's ridiculous. They could go a couple of different directions. I think that the easiest, just like slam dunk pick of just being like, okay, we got our guy and we've solidified our offensive line would be Amarius Mims. Plug him in right at right tackle, which is their glaring need on the offensive line, and then you have your bookend tackles. So I think that that's a really good choice. At the same time, Byron Murphy sitting there, I think would be a huge, huge get for this D'Amico Ryans defense. And I think that would help a tremendous amount there too. But then I'm also looking at like some wide receiver talent as well. And I think that they have made, excuse my French, but they've made chicken salad out of chicken shit. If you look at this roster before last season, you would have been like, oh my God, they need receivers in the worst way. But man, these guys have stepped up in a really big way. CJ Stroud has been the guy that they needed to kind of just ignite that entire side. Nico Collins became what looks like a bona fide wide receiver 1, which if you had said that before last season, you would have gotten, laughed out of the room. So I think they probably pass on wide receiver at this point because I think, while I'm really high on AD Mitchell, I think he's a huge talent. Ladd McConkey is a possibility. I don't think that it's as screaming of a need as some of the other available talent. Like I think Byron Murphy makes more sense. I think Amarius Mims makes more sense here. Do we know who's playing defensive tackle for Houston? I can't think of who that is.
They brought in Tart as depth, but I think they've just been plug and play there.
Play for them.
Yeah. So I think, man, this is so tough because do you just get your guy at right tackle and a Mims? I mean, Mims was incredible. Like the fact that he's fallen at 23 is actually kind of, that's fantastic value. And then of course, Byron Murphy, the undoubted, interior defensive tackle 1 in the draft. And that's a huge, huge upgrade. So I think I'll make a choice, but I think for D'Amico Ryans and the Houston organization, Nick Caserio, they have a tough decision to make. Do you instantly impact your offensive line or do you instantly impact your defense? And I think that they might be happy with where they're at. Maybe they find, who was it, like George Foster or somebody that came in that played right tackle for them and played. George Font. Played pretty well. So maybe they just find a guy that can fit into that. In this scenario, I'm going to go with my defensive head coach and who's probably going to want to get his guy and say like, look, let's just go with Byron Murphy. He's a stud. He's an immediate upgrade. He's the top available talent in the draft right now. We can't really go wrong. Let's just fill that need now and get the best available talent.
So based on their depth chart, it was Malik Collins and Sheldon Rankins was kind of their rotation is what it looks like. So bringing a bona fide guy there. Yeah. He's that dude. We got the Cowboys up, and Cowboys in the draft are always a wild card. But this season could be losing Tyron Smith, could be losing Tyler Biadasz, the center, to free agency. So they could go offensive line here. And there's 2 guys here, and You could go Graham Barton, who is that Swiss Army knife. He could play center for you. He could play left tackle for you. They also have what is his name? Tyler Smith out of Tulsa. I'm in Tulsa,
Yep.
so love Tyler Smith. He's played left guard for him. He could kick out to the left tackle spot, but we're going Amarius Mims here. He doesn't have a lot of snaps. When he has played, he's been very successful. He talked about at the combine how he played in practice more of a 60-40 split of 60% on the right side, 40% on the left side. So I think he could flip over to that left side if he wanted to. And again, just a mountain of a man. If you see those high school tapes from him running around in practice where he's 3 foot taller than anybody else out there, including the coaches, he could be that dude. As health is the concern. That's the biggest thing. If he stays healthy, he could be an all-pro, in my opinion. But all right, we're going back to Green Bay, rounding out these last 10-ish picks.
Yeah, I think they go Bucky Irvin.
Bucky Irvin.
I'm just playing.
I was like, all right, cool. I like
just
Bucky,
playing.
but
No, I think they get some tackle help here. Bakhtiari is really struggling. His knee is not in a good space right now, and it looks like they'll probably even cut him to be honest if they haven't already. So I can see them going Graham Barton here, getting a versatile guy like that can move to help with LaFleur in the run game and also protect Jordan Love's backside. I think it's a no-doubter for them to try and get Graham Barton here.
I love the pick. Graham Barton, I think he can be successful in all 5 spots across that offensive line, and he just looks like a Packer to me. I think that's just a great fit. All right, we're going Tampa Bay, who brought back Mike Evans. Looks like Baker's in the building as well. So they could go a couple different – they got a lot of needs according to PFF. So where are we going with this, Jonathan?
Yeah, well, if I'm a Buccaneer, I'm punching the air because I think Graham Barton would have been a fantastic fit in Tampa Bay because of his interior versatility. I actually like it better as a guard. And I just think that I think he kind of falls under the Peter Skoronski, realm of player. So yeah, I mean, let's take a look at the top players on the board here and kind of see where we can get some help, because right now, I mean, I think there's one player that screams off the page for me, but there's actually 2 guys that I'm considering, 3 guys really that I'm considering, and I'll just kind of talk through them. I think Zach Frazier would make a ton of sense here. They lost their all-pro center to retirement. So the interior really needs an upgrade. I think looking at corner, I'm a big fan of TJ Tampa. Kamara is also on the table here for me. They're like 1A, 1B of available current talent. And then I think, looking at scroll down a little bit, I saw, sorry. And then the guy who's at the top of the availability, probably the best edge rusher right now in Leatu Latu. So I think they're probably going to go in one of those directions. Does plugging in and getting a guy like Zach Frazier, who is definitely going to be picked in the next 15 or so picks of this draft, make sense? It does. Does taking a corner as a bigger need? Maybe not necessarily. They should be okay at that position, or maybe be able to find some good depth later in the draft. But then, I feel like there's a pretty big drop off of edge talent. You have like 3 or 4 guys that are at the top of that board, and then after that, it's tough. It's tough sledding. So I think just based off of what's available and how they can maybe fill in, I think Zach Frazier is definitely an option here. But in this scenario, I'm going to go edge for them and go with Leatu Latu as just a really, really good value pick at 26.
Leatu Latu obviously has all the tools in the toolbox. Showed he has more athleticism than maybe we thought he did. At the Senior Bowl, he did struggle at times, but the biggest thing for him going into the draft is how did those medicals come back at the combine? That's going to make or break him. He played through, was it a broken neck, broken back before being medically retired, before transferring over to UCLA. But once he did get over there, played lights out. So he could be the steal of the draft. And depending on those medicals, he could be edge 1. So We'll see how that all plays out. We got Arizona back on the board. We went Marvin Harrison Jr. with their first pick. So they could go a line here. They could go a multitude of different directions. They could go Jerzon Newton, even Johnny Newton. Linebacker or corner are the two that I'd really be looking at here. And I think it's corner, in my opinion. And that's going to be Kamari Lassiter out of Georgia. My guy. I think he's the best man
Lassiter
coverage corner. Yeah, he's good. Didn't get tested a lot. Biggest knockout for him is he's kind of small, so he might struggle with size at the next level. But we didn't see that in college. He's played great for Georgia. So we're going to go Kamari here. Pair him up with
how much better
Marvin
he'll
Harrison
get.
Jr.
Yeah, imagine how much better he'll get going against Marvin Harrison Jr. every day in practice too.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, talking about going against larger receivers, he'll get plenty of practice.
Exactly.
So,
he'll be seasoned.
All right. We got Buffalo back on the board here.
I think with this pick right here, I think the Bills, Josh Allen, Bills fans, they're salivating right now with the prospect of upgrading Gabe Davis with an AD Mitchell. I would be too.
That's a good pick there.
You take a guy like AD Mitchell here, dynamic. He can take the top off the defense like a Gabe Davis, but he can also do everything underneath that Gabe Davis can't. So you pair him with Diggs for a year, and you have another go at it next year and just try and outscore everybody.
I mean, just throw it deep. AD will be down there, twitched up as more than anybody in this draft, and obviously his 40 times showed that. So AD Mitchell going in the first round, I think is all but certain after his combine for performance. So
yeah.
All right. We got the Detroit Lions here.
This is a tough one. This is a tough one because there's a player that makes a ton of sense right here at this point in the draft. And it makes sense for the Detroit Lions as a fit, but I'm not sure that they go that direction. So I think for me, the decision is going to be between, I think they could add they need some help at corner. I mean, Chicago Bear / Tennessee Titan, Kendall Vildor was starting in the playoffs. So I think, that probably makes the most sense. Having Kamari go was probably a bummer, but to me, I think that TJ Tampa is right there with him. TJ Tampa had a fantastic career. Really, really good player, can play pretty much every part of the secondary. I think he can play well on the outside, would do well in the slot as well, and would be a good value piece for them. I think Jermaine Newton is a possibility here for them. That would be a really good fit for the Lions. Maybe if his medical gets cleared and they feel really good about what the future of his situation is. I don't think the injury is that serious for him. But corner is a huge need for the Lions here. And I think TJ Tampa is a really good player, especially at 29. So that's a good pick. I'm going to go with TJ Tampa.
No, I like that, especially with them. They definitely need help in the back end. And we got the Ravens on the board. This is my pick. This is my last pick. So
make it count.
Ravens could go a bunch of different ways. I mean, they could replace Geno Stone. They could replace Patrick Queen here. They could go corner. You could find that eventual Odell Beckham replacement. Eric DaCosta, one of the best GMs out there, and he just finds value. Oh, man. So what I'm debating between is my linebacker one, who's Peyton Wilson, which had the fastest,
like a freak.
He has been a freak. He's had the fastest clocked miles per hour in week 2, faster than anybody at his position, and had the fastest clock time at the Senior Bowl for the defensive side of the ball as well, if I remember right. So he's a stud. Could go wide receiver here. If they did go wide receiver here, I think they just go full NASCAR and they bring in Xavier Worthy.
The pandemonium.
I don't think you can have him and Zay Flowers on the same offense, right? Like size-wise.
Yeah. Size-wise, they're not
speed,
there.
I don't know.
Xavier Worthy, he is Hollywood Brown, in my opinion, coming out. He's just a demon, and DaCosta likes him that way. So you could definitely go there. Man. We're going to do it. We're going to go Xavier Worthy here.
Man.
I personally wouldn't do it, but I could see DaCosta
would be a scary offense. They would be the toughest offense to defend in terms of speed.
Oh, 100%.
And that's the thing, too. You bring in Derrick Henry, and you you're versatile. It's like, okay, we're going to crash the line of scrimmage here on 3rd and 1, or we're going to get our speedsters on the outside. So, I mean, maybe it's not a crazy pick. I think that maybe it doesn't make the most sense because I feel like they have that player already in Zay Flowers, but I mean, what are you going to pass up the fastest guy in the draft? So
I think it'd be a very, very, very good get for them. They'd give Lamar an option on the outside on those third and shorts when they got 8 men in the box, and you just throw Worthy on the outside, give him a 9 route, try and get him to beat the press, and Lamar floats the ball up. I mean, that's a recipe there.
Todd Monken is licking his lips right now.
Oh yeah, and he's going to run the ball 80 times a game still.
Phew.
All right, we got Sanfran on the clock here, and back to you, B. Will, for your last pick.
So I think this was evident, more so, this was evident a little bit in the Super Bowl, but especially leading up, especially in the Green Bay game and throughout the season, they need a lot of O-line help there. So, Trent Williams is on the way out. Eventually, he's not going to be playing much longer, I don't think. He's getting up in age. I think they go and try and get a tackle here because there's very good value at tackle here with, I think, Guyton's available. Can you go to the tackles?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they take the best tackle available here, and I think it's Guyton. So Guyton has experience playing right tackle, if I'm not mistaken. So he could be initially plugged in at right tackle, and once he gets his feet wet, he could be the Trent Williams successor on the left side. I just think this is a no-brainer for them to try and give Shanahan and Purdy some help, but protection-wise. And he's athletic enough to run that multiple scheme. He run a lot of outside zone. Shanahan's also incorporated a lot of duo. So Guyton's got the athleticism to really contribute in the run game while also being able to pass protect as well.
I'll say Guyton, he has the athleticism to thrive in a zone-based scheme. He did struggle with it at Oklahoma, and you can see that with his PFF grade. They see it very similarly. True pass
he's like a
set,
tree, man. He's just like a big tree.
He's a monster of a man. And as far as like body fat percentage, what do they have him listed at? 6'7", 327. He's in the single digits, in my opinion. Dude is cut up and ripped for his size. So we've got Tyler Guyton there.
And Trent Williams is a former Oklahoma tackle, so they've got that in common. I think Trent will take him under his wing, and I think Guyton will end up pretty good.
I don't think Trent played for Bill Bedenbaugh. I think Bill came in a year or two after that, who is Oklahoma's offensive line coach. I think he's one of the best in the business. That is one of my concerns as well is, hey, you had some of the best coaching in college. How much more can we get out of you from a little bit better coaching at the next level? So that's probably my biggest concern with him. But if that clicks for him, dude could be amazing. Similar to Maurice Mims, but he's got a little bit more tape on him. So then we got Kansas City here, and I did everybody the best service in the world, not giving them Xavier Worthy to pair with Patrick Mahomes. So how are we ending this draft? Or A.D. Mitchell.
I was just about to say the feud between Baltimore and Kansas City grows because Xavier Worthy was 100% the pick. There's not a chance that Xavier Worthy makes it into the second round because he would absolutely get picked here. Now, given the current state of the wide receiver board, I think it's very clear who the top receiver talent is right here. But for some reason, it's just really hard for me to mock him in the first round, and that's Ladd McConkey. Like I think he would be great. He would be a great fit in that offense, and maybe that is the guy given the current state of this board. But I think another thing I want to look at before I make a decision is, can you show me the available corners?
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the corners because it looks like L'Jarius Sneed is on his way out of the building. I mean,
I guarantee they have a corner in the hyperbolic chamber that they're just going to throw out there already.
I mean, yeah, it's more likely they don't spend a first-round pick on him here. I think maybe if like a TJ Tampa or if Kamari is here, then they'll consider that. I don't really, Rackstraw, I'm not a huge fan of him. I've seen a lot of mocks where he goes in the first round. And Kyrie Jackson, he's not a first-round talent either, so probably won't go corner. I think, given this situation, I think Ladd McConkey is probably the pick. I think they'll go receiver. If they're lucky, one of these guys like AD or Xavier, one of the Texas products falls to them. Not huge on Troy Franklin. Don't love that. Ricky Parasol is not a first-round pick, though. He's definitely going in the second round, in my opinion, second or early third. So yeah, we'll go with Ladd McConkey here. I mean, he's dynamic. He's way faster than I think anybody thought he was.
Yeah.
And he is a dynamic route runner. So I think that adds a ton of value to an already pretty good offense. But they're losing MVS. They're obviously not bringing back Kadarius Toney. So there's some clear needs in the wide receiver room, and I think it's worth addressing here at pick 32.
This grouping of four right here, the Ladds, the Troys, the Romans, the Rickies, I see them all very similarly. And I would like them maybe towards the Titans picking at 38. I would like them even a little bit further down than that.
Yeah.
They're just so grouped together. I don't want to be the first one to pull the trigger on one of them. I want to get the third or fourth guy. I want to get the value there. But Ladd, he can dice up the defense. He can sit down in zone. He's shown the speed that he can beat man coverage. But there we have it, guys. 1 through 32.
How many quarterbacks in the top 10? 4? 3?
So we had 4. Yeah, we had McCarthy going as the 4th at 7.
But I'm happy with it. I don't know about you guys. I'm happy with it from a Titans perspective, being able to trade back, get some second-round picks. While picking up Olu Fashanu, we got paid to get Olu Fashanu. That's the way I think of it, and I'm happy.
Yep. I'm happy with where the Titans are sitting, and they got the 2 second-round picks. They can definitely start that rebuild and start putting some key pieces into place to build this Callahan team. But all right, guys, what did you guys think about the mock? Make sure you comment down below. What would you do different? We're going to hop into, after you guys go like and subscribe, favorite Titans of all time draft. We're going to take 4 picks each. This will be snake draft style. So we got B. Will Star and Jonathan and then me. I'll have the back-to-back, and then we'll circle back through. This could go a bunch of different ways. And I was sitting down right before I went to bed last night making my list, and it's like,
I did too.
I like this one, but man, it's hard. I do like being on the turn here because I don't have to make those hard picks that B. Will is going to have to make here in a minute. But all right, B. Will, let's go and start.
The first one's too hard, man. I'll be honest with you. I don't think the first one, at least for me, it's not
There's
hard.
2. There's 2 for me.
I bet you it's universal. I bet you the first round pick is universal.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I grew up watching this guy. He was a really big part of just seeing what a Titan was from the aspect of toughness, just going out there. I mean, this guy's going out there with broken sternums, just you name it. I mean, he's a monster. Country boy, tough, talented, won an MVP. It has to be Steve McNair here, number 1. Rest in peace.
Yep.
Gotta be.
Already had it put in, so yeah, I think we all agree there. Rest in peace, McNair.
I'll never forget. Quick story. Early on, I mean, I was probably, well, it actually wasn't that early on. I was a Titans fan for several years at this point, but McNair, I'll never forget. It was a Fox Sports production, and it was an afternoon game, and they were showing they did a medical chart of Steve McNair's injuries, and there was like 9 active injuries, and one of them was where he, on his throwing hand, he had his middle finger and his ring finger taped together, and he played like half the season like that. And then he had cracked ribs, fractured this, twisted ankle, turf toe. He had like 9 injuries, and he balled out. He threw over 300 yards that game, and it was huge. So yeah, just as a young Titans fan, having that guy be your quarterback was just, it cemented my fandom, because I was like, man, this is the coolest guy in the world to me. Like, he could do no wrong. And that's why I'm excited about young Titans fans. Like my son is about to turn 4. I'm excited for young Titans fans in general, because when you have a quarterback, when you have a guy at quarterback, man, it makes being a fan, it's like the pillar of fandom. It really is. Right. So I really hope that Will Levis is that guy moving forward, because man, I'll never forget those early memories of Steve McNair and the toughness and the way that he played. Like, you saw how hurt he was, and he just gritted through it and just balled out, and man, never forget it.
I think Levis has a lot of McNair to his game, and maybe we're seeing the Spears Levis turn into that George McNair. Hopefully we'll get there, but I do see a lot of comparisons in his game. All right,
no doubt.
Jonathan, where are we going with your first pick?
Oh, okay. So my first pick is a little bit easier, because now I get to pick my second favorite Titan of all time. So glad that B. Will did us justice as a fandom and picked the right player at 101. But this player to me is, clearly he was dominant throughout his career, but dominant in an era that mattered for us, where our fan base was able to kind of take that next step. And there's so many. I literally have a list of 16 players, and obviously I'm not going to get to pick 16 players, but I had to plug this person in at 2 for me because of what he meant to the team in the evolution of the competitive Titans. And I have to go with Derrick Henry. And I know that that's kind of like, maybe might feel like a cop-out pick, and maybe it's recency bias. But I'm going with Derrick Henry because he made Smash Mouth Titans football in the new era cool. Like, he put us on the map. Like, that 2019 run, Derrick Henry absolutely slaughtering everybody from, early December all the way through the AFC Championship game. I mean, he made us cool. He made it to where it was like, okay, like Ryan Tannehill, like, we don't really respect him at quarterback, like, whatever. But Derrick Henry, we fear Derrick Henry. And the way he ran was like, being El Tractorcito, just running people over, the 99-yard run. Every time we go into prime time, it's how do you stop Derrick Henry? So that, to me, just made it so dominant. And obviously CJ2K is up there for me too, but man, Derrick, just the way he did it and the way our team rallied around him is the reason why he's just been one of my favorite players of all time.
Man, those would have been my top 2. So I'm already scrambling here with the first pick. But I do have a good idea who at least one of them is going to be, and that's going to be Keith Bullock. I loved Keith growing up. I played linebacker all through elementary through high school. Loved the position, and he was that dude ever since stepping onto the scene. He was the leader of that defense for over a decade. Yeah. So
Mr. Monday Night.
That's Mr. Monday Night. It's hard. That one's easy for me. The second pick, though,
he was 4th on my big board. Love Keith.
There's really 2 guys I'm debating in between here. I'm gonna see if one of them comes back to me, and we're gonna go Delanie Walker. Delanie Walker is maybe not viewed. I mean, you could argue he's been the best Titans tight end of all time. There's one other guy that you could argue. But Delanie, he has that mentality. You could see him screaming on the sidelines. Came in as a wide receiver, switched to tight end, and became a very good run-blocking tight end. You don't see that. He was consistent for us, especially through those dark years. He was the shining light. So I'm going to go back-to-back here with Delanie Walker and Keith Bullock. And I put it in reverse, but I see it similar. So, all right. Back to you, Jonathan.
Back to me. Okay, so this guy, I kind of flashed it a little bit, and this guy's really high on my list. He's number 3 on my list, for a lot of the same reasons that Derrick Henry was, and that person is Chris Johnson, CJ2K. Chris Johnson, I think when he was announced as, I want to say he was the 24th overall pick in the first round, as a young Titans fan, I was like, who did we just take? East Carolina guy. They show his combine results, and it's like, okay, like, we get it. The fastest 40 time, like 4.24. This guy's blazing speed. But is he, like, what makes him dynamic as a runner, right? And you just kind of assume he was going to be like a, like a yak guy, like pass, throw the ball out of the backfield and kind of get him in open space type of thing. But he evolved into so much more than that. Like, I'll never forget the run that he broke. It was like the 80-yarder where he collides with, I forget who the safety was. The Jacksonville guy just literally head on trucks him and then goes for 65 more yards. Like, I'll just never forget, like, those types of runs were just so dynamic and so much fun. And I don't know if anybody else got a chance to see him in person, but watching Chris Johnson run the football in person was breathtaking, because this guy would, as soon as he gets the ball, his like out of the gate speed, his acceleration was just insane. And watching him go in person was a treat. So yeah, Chris Johnson, obviously we weren't the best team during his stint. But man, was he fun to watch. And he kind of did the same thing for us, even on a team that wasn't that great. was electric, a 2,000-yard rusher. And then, how blessed are we as a fan base that we literally have 2,000-yard rushers in a franchise almost back-to-back, by the way, which is insane. So, yeah, CJ2K, one of my favorites.
Kerry Collins to a 13-3 season.
He absolutely carried him.
Yeah, Collins, man.
Yeah,
and I think what was his all-purpose yards were like a little over 20. It was either a little over 24 or a little over 2,500 all-purpose yards.
Mm-hmm.
That's absurd.
And he should have had the record if they didn't call that phantom holding penalty on Kevin Mawae.
Yep.
That really pisses me off to this day.
Rough.
All right, B. Will, you got back-to-back picks here.
Oh man. So second, I'm gonna have to go Kevin Byard, the mayor of Murfreesboro. A guy that came in 3rd round draft pick. I was younger when he got drafted, so the expectations. I watched his tape. I was like, this guy can play center field. He's a monster. But then I didn't expect him to be what Kevin Byard became as a Titan. I mean, he's a great person in the community, an even greater player. I mean, he embodied what it was meant to be a Titan, and he ushered us from the sort of the darkest ages into the peak of what the Titans have been while in Nashville besides the early years. That second sort of run as the Tennessee Titans. So love Kevin Byard. I'd honestly love to see him back on a little not a prove it deal because he'd have to prove shit to us, but on a cheaper deal, get Hooker out of there. And, let's get Byard in there and run it back. That's the guy. That's the vet that I'd love to run it back. Not only because of just I like him as a player, but he's so cerebral and he'll be a really good asset for us on the back end still.
He's the leader, man. He's a
I want to see him back, but not as a player. I want him to come in as similar to Luke Stalker's doing for us right now. He's just kind of that learning to coach type guy. And that gives you that leadership in that locker room too. And have him learn behind Denard Wilson and how he's doing things. This is a dude that could become a secondary coach in the league, in my opinion. He's that smart at the position. I said, cerebral. He was never the hyper athlete. He was in the right place at the right time every play. So
I think he could do both over the next year or two. I think he could still play, but be ushered into a sort of a coaching role. He definitely is coming in as a mentor role, but I think he still has a little bit of juice in him.
That's as if he doesn't lead into politics. He can be the real mayor.
The real mayor. He could do that too if he wanted to.
That's facts. That's facts. Hold on. Fun little story really quick. You guys no one's going to believe me, and that's okay, but I know in my heart of hearts that this is true.
Mm-hmm.
I was the first person to call Kevin Byard the mayor of Murfreesboro. No one's going to believe me, and that's totally okay. Mike Keith can say what he wants. I promise you, I tweeted it like his second year in the league. And I tweeted at the Titans multiple times. I said it and I did the hashtags all the time. And then Mike Keith said it on a call and my jaw dropped. And I got so excited. And then I was like, no one is ever going to believe me. I tried to pull up I'll have to figure out how to pull up an archive because there used to be a website for that where you could pull up all your tweets. You could scroll all the way to the original. Like I'm telling you, I promise you, I said it first. Anyways, just throwing that out there. But yeah, mayor of Murfreesboro, that's where I live. I live in Murfreesboro. So he crushed it at MTSU. We're not a big football, definitely not a big football city. MTSU is not known for their football, but man, he made it so much fun. Winning some games we probably shouldn't have because he was so dynamic in the secondary. So yeah, I'm such a huge fan of Kevin Byard, man. He's huge, and he's huge around here. We love him.
All right, B-Will, you got another pick. Where are we going with the third?
Man, so I'm hoping I'm torn between two, and I'm hoping that the second guy comes back around to me. I don't think he will, but this guy right here that I'm gonna say for my third pick, man, he's another one that embodied what being a Titan was, and he was with us with some of the dark ages, and that sort of holds a little bit more salt with me as a Titans fan. Just it can feel lonely being a Titans fan, and we're going 2-14, 3-13, 2-14. It really felt lonely, but when you saw guys out there that actually gave a damn about being a Titan, that still went out there every Sunday, playing through injuries, talking crap to the other players, getting in fights, that's what I looked at as a Titan because we really didn't have much to fight for back then. We were bad. But this guy is still just gritty, just a fighter, and he was a great player to back it up for us. He got paid by the Rams and didn't really do much, but he was great for us. It's going to be Cortland Finnegan, man. I mean, that
I've
guy
already wrote it in for you.
Just nasty, man. That's one of my favorite players as a Titan. not only for what he did on the field, talent wise, but just his mentality is just another thing. If you see my guys, I'm taking like just mentality warriors, man. These are my guys.
I think Cortland was definitely on my list, and it was a guy I thought of this morning. I was like, oh man, I gotta add him on there. Maybe I'll get him at the last round type dude. But Cortland, if I'm thinking secondary, who's just a dog, it's Cortland's number one.
Yeah.
All right.
Bro played so physical and so nasty, but man, when he caught that ass whooping and then we lost like that, oh, it was like the worst
Forever
day as a
memed.
Titans fan outside of that Super Bowl, bro. Like, oh my God. And I'm surrounded by like Colts fans and other AFC South fans in my friend group. Boy, I caught several fades that day. It was rough. But yeah, I mean,
He didn't stop talking though.
Respect the hell out of him. No, I mean, he took his ass whooping, he got up, clapped his hands and said, let's go. Like, okay, well, I respect it.
Two Titans greats out there. Andre Johnson and Cortland.
Yeah. Titans legend Andre Johnson.
All right, Jonathan. Who we going with the third?
Okay, so for my third pick, the next guy on my big board is Eddie George, but I'm not taking all of our running backs. Okay, so I'll just say that Eddie George is an honorary mention. Loved Eddie George growing up. I mean, he was another one of those big reasons, like the fights between him and Ray Lewis. One of the first running backs in Titans era, but one of the few running backs in the NFL era around that time that took the nastiest guy in the league and just lifted him off the ground with one arm and stiff-armed him to the ground. Now, Ray still got his back and took him back with him. But, man, watching him stiff-arm Ray Lewis like that and having them go back and forth, those matchups, Titans-Ravens, were so much fun because of those guys. So, obviously, Eddie's huge. I'm not going to take Eddie, though, because I don't want to take all the running backs. I'm going to go with the guy who really was in the new Titans era, just an absolute freak athlete, just an absolute freak. And this guy, his intangibles when he was drafted were insane. And he came and he was as advertised as 16th, getting this guy at 16 overall, absurd because he was insane. And that's Javon Curse. Going with Javon Curse, he was the literal freak, but man, he was such an incredible athlete, and he really was a huge pillar of the defensive line that really, he was the first guy that kind of like set the tone for what Titans defensive lines would be for forever, like ever since then, right? Because then it evolved into the Albert Haynesworths and then Jarrell Casey's and then now Big Jeff. So like, and some of our edge rushers. So yeah, I mean, he was the guy, man, and he was so much fun to watch.
That would have been one of my picks. Those are the guys I was gambling to get back to me. Almost got back. But if you're not going to take Eddie George, I mean, I might as well.
I just couldn't take all the running backs, you know.
Just take all the running backs,
George
right?
Out there. That'll be my third pick. And then we'll go into the fourth. And this one is pretty easy for me just for what it meant to the franchise. And it was indeed a lateral. And that's Frank Wycheck.
That's right.
Man, rest in peace. One of the greatest.
Yep. There's so many stories that came out this past year of him just being the best dude out there.
Yeah.
Talking to anybody and everybody, and was a dog on the field. And I put together the best tight end group we could have put together with Delaney and Frank. Happy with that.
No doubt.
And that's my fourth pick. And then we're back to you, Jonathan.
Okay. So this guy is the next person on my list. And I struggled. I struggled so hard with this list. I literally have 17 players because there's just so many that I loved. And I tried to base my list off of just guys that I personally loved. Like it wasn't because of stats. It wasn't because of whatever. It was how did they touch my heart as a fan. And this guy, I think, was mostly beloved by everybody. I mean, he was maybe the most likable player in Titans history, I would argue, outside of maybe the Steve McNairs and Derrick Henrys of the world. And I'm going to go with my last pick. I'm going to go with Marcus Mariota. Marcus was, when he came in really hot as a second overall pick. I was really excited and happy to have him. And I think the Ken Wisenhunt era kind of got off to the wrong start, off to the wrong note. But overall, this guy was so likable, man. It was impossible to hate him. Even when he played poorly, you're like, well, he got up there and he owned it. His teammates loved him. If you want to talk about like maybe a culture restart, maybe the most important thing that Marcus Mariota did for this team was not necessarily, be the stud quarterback, franchise quarterback that we needed long-term, but he came in and he set a precedent, like as a culture, like, okay, this roster, this locker room is going to rally together because they're going to play hard for this guy because they love him. And I think Marcus did the one thing that real true leaders do, and that's make the people around you better, to elevate the people around you. And maybe nobody else in our franchise's history did that better than Marcus, in my opinion.
It's tough, man, because we couldn't have made the right decision at the top of that draft, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
So it's just some years fall like that, and that's just what it was. I hate it had to be Marcus for that period of time and how it ended up, but he was a great guy throughout it all for sure.
And we can argue that second knee injury doesn't happen.
He was on MVP pace.
He was crushing. He was killing.
Yeah.
So,
him and Derek Carr of all people.
Yeah. So you can't, obviously it is what it is. You can't turn back the dials. But I will say when it comes to leadership and when it comes to elevating the locker room, it was clear. Every player, defense, offense, special teams, it didn't matter. Everyone spoke so highly, glowingly of Marcus. And I think at the very least, if you have a game manager quarterback who's not going to go out there and win you the game necessarily, which by the way, Marcus definitely did multiple times, but if anything else, he makes all the players around him better. And if you have a united locker room and you have that culture set, then you can build the team for years to come. So my argument is that Marcus was the right guy in that situation and set our locker room and our team and our franchise up for building off of him, and which is exactly what happened because Ryan Tannehill took over in AFC Championship. So, yeah.
Yep. Can't beat that. All right, B-Will. Ended it out for us. Last pick of the draft.
Man, so I want to take Jeffrey Simmons so bad here. I got 2 of his jerseys. I love him to death as a player for us, and that's the no-brainer pick right here. But I'm not gonna go Jeffrey Simmons, man. One, he's still got a story to write, so I'd sort of be doing a disservice to the guys that have already written their stories with us, whether the stories ended up good or ended up fruitful for us. But this guy I'm picking here, man, he wasn't the most explosive guy. He wasn't the most league renowned guy talent wise. The league didn't want him, but we took him. We had him, and we owned it. We owned him, and he owned being part of a Titan. And just he was a lot closer to us, I feel like, than other players are. He seemed like he was a fan almost the way he operated. And this guy's Lindell White, man. I mean, Lindell is just Lindell's Lindell. I think anybody you talk to from that era would say, man, Lindell's Lindell. Smash and dash, you can't beat it. He wasn't I'm not gonna say he wasn't the best pro, but he wasn't a great pro, if we're being honest. But he still produced. I remember the Thanksgiving game. Him and CJ just went crazy. But the run I remember most is that long run he had against Kansas City.
Yeah.
He's running, and I'm not doing anything. I'm not even cheering. I'm just laughing because he's running away from guys. Like I'm like, how
boy.
is
He brought the beef,
bro?
Yeah, I said, how is this guy doing this? I'm just laughing.
What was his strides? His strides were like so short that he was just so fast, bro. Hilarious.
It was hilarious to me. And every time I see that touchdown rolled back, I just start laughing again because I mean that's Lindell White, and that was the Titans at that time period. That was us.
Awesome, guys. Well, that wraps it up. B-Will, Eric McNair, Kevin Byard, Cortland Finnegan, Lindell White, Jonathan, Derrick Henry, CJ 2K, Javon Kirsch, The Freak, Marcus Mariota, and I got Delaney Walker, Keith Bullock, Eddie George, and Frank Wycheck. There's a lot of guys we could have thrown on this list. Some of the guys I just had that didn't make it. Kevin Mawai, that would have been my guy, maybe next. Bruce Matthews was a guy, probably the best player I could argue in Titans history. But he was more of an Oiler. He did play a season or 2 as a Titan. And then the one wild card I had out there was Kyle Van Den Bosch. Mr.
Van Den Bosch was on mine too. Yeah.
Yep.
Ben Jones, an honorable mention.
Great Titan.
Albert Hainsworth. Crazy.
Hainsworth was good for us.
Absolute monster.
Think about him. Yeah.
Derek Mason.
Yep, Derek Mason.
Yeah.
Nate Washington was on my honorable mentions as well.
Him. And Drew Bennett. I mean,
Drew Bennett. Yeah.
So many guys that we could have went with.
AJ Brown.
Only had 4. AJ Brown was on as Titan.
Yep.
I left AJ off. Left AJ off. But no Luan. Austin Tucker says. Yeah, you
Not
could
a
argue
fan of him,
Luan.
man.
Luan was on mine. Luan was on my
I
list.
had Luan. I like Luan. But he gets
He was
enough
knocked down he was
publicity
off
as
my
it
big
is.
board.
Yeah. Will Compton. That was on my
The
list.
thing that made him likable, the reason why he made my list is because Luan like embraced the suck. You know what I'm saying? Like he talks about it all the time. Like he's a true Titan. And I think the one thing that gets it for me is that it's easy to be a player. You get brought into a franchise because you're getting paid and you're just there and you're like, okay, cool, I'm on this team. And then when you're done, you're whatever. I mean, this guy has like, he's a Titan for life. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And when guys embrace the team like that, it, as a fan, I feel a deeper connection to that person for that reason. So I think that's why Taylor gets that. I mean, he was all pro player. I mean, he was a Pro Bowl player as well. So like he was
player.
a damn good player for us.
Points in his career, you could argue he was the best left tackle in the league. And you can't say that about a lot of Titans, that we had the best player at a position group. So he definitely made my list. He did miss out on making the top 4. But all right, guys. I think that wraps it up. Yeah, I debated upon going the Randy Moss, Andre Johnson, Adrian Peterson.
I left those guys off my list for that reason.
I did too. I debated upon it, though. I thought it'd be pretty fun. But all right, guys, we're going to get out of here. We've been here almost 2 hours. We've had upwards of 400 people in the chat checking us out. If you're still checking us out, make sure. Yeah, biggest show we've had so far, longest show we've had so far. Make sure you go over to YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. It definitely helps us out. Will help us grow this channel. If you missed out in the beginning, we're giving away 2 boxes of our Kingdom candy to one lucky person who is a subscriber and has commented on this week's video. We'll announce that on Twitter on Sunday evening. But thanks for checking us out, guys. Love you, mean it.